If you remember last week, we learned that the Jewish people are like olive, like an olive. And when they're squeezed, so there comes out this pure oil, pure light. And but they have to be squeezed. What squeezes them exactly? It says, first of all, this light, what we're talking about, this was the light that was in the holy temple. The Jewish people, every single Jewish person is a holy temple. And our job is to illuminate the whole entire world. So in order to do this, is we need several ingredients. First of all, there has to be Moses. There has to be a Moses. And that's what is hinted at over here. That God tells Moses to tell the people that Moses should command the people. Ata T'zave, Moses, you command the Jewish people that they should bring to you this pure oil. They should bring to you this pure oil for the temple. That's how it starts off. This would, and the oil should come from the pure olive oil was crushed up for the illuminator, and it's going to make a constant light in the holy temple. The purpose of the Jewish people is to excuse me is to illuminate the world. What happens when you illuminate anything is you see what's there. You can be in a room that's filled with money and friends and food and drink, and if the lights are out and everybody's quiet, so you don't know, you can feel poor and you get depressed, hungry and thirsty. As soon as you turn on the lights, you see what's there. What the same thing is with the world. The fact of the matter is that this world is made with a tremendous purpose. The world is a creation, there's a tremendous purpose, but we don't see it. And it's the purpose of the Jews is to reveal this. That's the purpose of the Jews, is to reveal this purpose to everyone in the world, so that everybody feels important, and they are important, that God is creating us. God is creating every person. No one sees this. And it's the job of the Jews to first of all see it themselves, and also to put out this pure olive oil, this pure awareness, the fuel to be aware of God. Okay, so what is this fuel? So this is the Rebbe. It's the essence soul of every Jew. There it is. It's the essence soul of every Jew. It's like sometimes you have a person that, let's say the first person who was an expert violinist. So as soon as he does it, then there's people hear it, they think it's beautiful. All of a sudden, everybody's taking violin lessons. And the first person was a good guitarist, whatever, popular guitarist. People hear it. So all of a sudden, the next day, people want to learn guitar, and there's guitar teachers, or all of a sudden they have business. It's because one person is a good example. Well, the Jewish people, they're the example that God exists and that God cares about us and that God loves us. That life is infinitely meaningful. Every moment is infinitely blessed. It's a challenge. That's what the Jewish people are here for. Okay. And so they provide the light for this for everyone. Okay, so the light has to have to carry this metaphor a little bit further. It has to have pure oil. Where is the pure olive oil? So the Rebbe says the pure olive oil comes from the Jews when they are in exile. When the Jews are in exile, that squeezes them. And this because it's a squeeze, and it forces them to reveal who they really are. It forces them to reveal, no matter how much the Jews would like to sort of blend in with the scenery and just not be noticed. But the fact is that they can't. And when all of a sudden it'll stand up a Haman or someone like that, and he stands up to kill all the Jews, a Hitler, God forbid. And suddenly the Jews can't deny the fact that they are different, and they discover why they're different, that they have this ability to point the world in the direction of the Creator. So it's the exile that's what does it. But then there's elsewhere that it says no, it's not the exile. It's because there has to be a Jewish leader. There has to be a Moses, like it says over here. God says the Jewish people have to bring this oil to tell Moses. Moses tells the Jewish people to bring this oil to him. So it's Moses that he's the one that's telling the Jewish people to bring the oil. It's not the exile. It's that Moses is doing it. So who's the one that's doing it? What's going on over here? So historically, we have to understand the sheikhos, the difference. What's the connection between what it says that katit l'ma'or, that the Jewish people are crushed up to produce this pure oil, this pure identity to the world. What is it that does it? Here it says in the time of exile that every single Jew is broken and crushed. And by means of this, you get to the essence of the light. The Jewish people provide this oil, the soul power to illuminate the world. That everybody sees the world is just not like, what did the scientists say? That the world was just created from a big bang or from absolutely no meaning whatsoever. The whole thing is just this scientific process, the same thing a human being is, just sort of combustion or whatever it's called. Absolutely no meaning whatsoever. It comes from cells, which eventually evolved into tadpoles, which evolved into the monkeys. And there's absolutely no purpose or meaning to the whole thing behind. And the Jews, when all of a sudden everybody turns against the Jews, so the Jews, they reveal it's not so. In fact, that the world is created by God and it does have a meaning and everything is really special. And nothing is by accident and everything is a big challenge, and etc. That's the exile. The exile is what does it. In the time of the exile, when Jewish people suddenly get picked out and they become broken, and by means of this, they reach the light. Says the Rebbe, and they reach the pure olive oil, that's the pure light. Says the Rebbe, but one second, another place it says, and we explained before that it's Moses. Moses and the representative Moses, he's the one that brings this pure light. What's going on? So I'll just sort of shorten the process a little bit, and you'll see if I'm accurate what it says over here. But the exile certainly does crush the Jews. Certainly does. But Moses teaches the Jews to crush themselves. Moses brings out this pure light of the Jews by convincing the Jews that there's a way to crush yourself to bring out this. We'll see what it means. Okay, I'm just a beautiful pasuk, the explanation in this Ata T'zave, it comes in the Mimor. Now the Rebbe is talking about this Hasidic discourse that was given by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1927, right? 1927. This is the year that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe was imprisoned, and shortly thereafter he was exiled, kicked out of Russia. We went through some big difficulties also. Okay, now we have to understand in the sense Ata T'zave. This sentence in the Torah that God tells Moses that he has to T'zave, command the Jewish people. And the Rebbe pointed out the word T'zave means to connect, that he connects the Jewish people to God. Right? Jewish people like to, we saw in last week's Torah portion, they like to worship idols. They like to shirk responsibility. they like to lead a normal life. And they can't, because the world is not normal. And Moses, he's the one that connects them to this above normal life that they have to live. Ata T'zave. This comes in a connection where it says in Bechilas Mimor in the beginning that when it says Bekibel HaYehudim et asher yichilel lasot. This Mimor was said, this Hasidic discourse that was said in 1923 by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe Yosef Yitzhak. This was said in conjunction with Purim. Purim is a really very, very, very strange holiday in Judaism. Very, very strange holiday. What's the holiday in Judaism? The holiday in Judaism is there was once a man called Haman. And Haman, this was right before the second temple was built. And Haman, he rose up to tremendous power in the government of a king called Achashverosh that ruled the whole world. And we learned a little bit about this at 3 o'clock. We have a Chumash, a class in the Megillah of Esther. So Nebuchadnezzar conquered the whole world, and then a king, he was the one that destroyed the temple. And then shortly thereafter, there was a king, 70 years after, whatever, was a king called Koresh. And Koresh, he was from Persia. And he took the world away from Achashverosh. He took the whole world, conquered the whole entire world. And he even told the Jews that they could go back home and build the temple. And then there was other people that made trouble for the Jews, the Kutim, Samaritans. They made trouble for the Jews. They did not let the Jews build the second temple. They made all sorts of terrible trouble. And that's right when this holiday of Purim occurred. All of a sudden popped up Haman, and Haman made this decree to kill and destroy all the Jews in one day. And there was an amazing miracle. And God saved the Jews. But in between the decree and God saving the Jews, there was an amazing phenomena that never occurred before in the history of the world, and really never occurred since. And what happened was that the Jews realized that the decree was only on the Jews. All they had to do was deny their Judaism, and they all refused. They refused to deny their Judaism. The Jews, the same Jews that just shortly before had all had fun at the big meal of Achashverosh, that he was celebrating the fact that the Jewish exile was not going to end. It was supposed to be 70 years. And according to his calculations, the Jewish exile had already lasted 70 years, even more, and it wasn't ending. So he understood from this that the prophets weren't true and God had left the Jews. He made a big party, and the Jews also lost hope, and they went to the party. And from this came all this terrible decree. Suddenly stood up Haman, made a decree to kill all the Jews. And those same Jews that were in the holiday party of Achashverosh, those same Jews that just wanted to have a good time and they gave up on the future redemption, those very same Jews, they refused to deny their Judaism. If they would have just said, I'm not Jewish, they wouldn't have been under the decree. The decree was to kill all the Jews. All they had to say, I'm not Jewish. None of them did. Not one Jew even thought to do so. That's what the first Rebbe of Chabad says. So it says right at the end of the Megillah, it says that the Jews accepted what they began to do. That's what it says. Strange sentence. The Jews accepted what they began to do. What did they begin to do? So it says in the Gemara that the Jews accepted finally what they began to do when the Torah was given. God took the Jews out of Egypt, gave them the Torah, and 1,000 years later was the holiday of Purim. In other words, the Jews went 1,000 years and they didn't really accept the Torah. And Matan Torah, that was the beginning. When God gave the Torah, that was the beginning. In the days of Achashverosh, in the time of the Decree of Haman, that's when the Jews actually accepted the Torah. The Jews actually accepted Bekibul HaYehudim. It's the same thing also, the rabbis, there's another sentence over there. It says, Kimu Bekibul HaYehudim. Another sentence in the Megillah of Esther, near the end also. Kimu Masha Kiblu Kavar. The Jewish people actually fulfilled what they accepted in Mount Sinai. That at Mount Sinai, it says the Jewish people, they were all enthusiastic, and they said, Moses, we will do whatever it says in the Torah, v'nishma, and afterwards we'll understand it. Na'aseh v'nishma, whatever God tells us to do, we'll do it. And then we'll ask questions afterwards. But we're going to do it, no matter what, whether we understand or not. We're going to ask questions. We'll try to understand. Whether we understand or not is not the main thing. In fact, we're going to do the commandments. Na'aseh, that's what the Jews said before they received the Torah. Na'aseh v'nishma. We'll do all the commandments, and then we'll try to understand them. That was at Mount Sinai. In other words, unwavering, unquestioning servitude. The Jews said, we'll do whatever you want, God. At Mount Sinai, this was only the beginning. Or this was only, if you want to call it that, they agreed to receive. In the days of Achashverosh, they actually did, they fulfilled what they accepted on themselves. The same idea. Giving of the Torah was only the beginning, and the conclusion was 1,000 years later in the holiday of Purim. And in this discourse, the previous Rebbe said in 1927, at first glance, doesn't make any sense, that at the giving of the Torah, the Jewish people were tachlit ha'ila, they were at the ultimate highness. The God was revealed. But darga hachin ali, at the highest level. There was no one had any doubts whether God existed or not. No, impossible. Everyone was certain, 100% God existed. It said that God spoke to them in Mount Sinai, face to face. It says that their souls jumped out of their bodies from the tremendous revelation. Everyone felt and they knew that this was God, that God chose them, took them out of Egypt. Notice if this, in fact, that before, in addition to the fact that before giving Torah, there were the tremendous, highest possible revelations. The revelations that were when God took the Jews out of Egypt, and especially when he split the sea. The revelation that was in Mount Sinai was even higher than what it was in in Egypt, even higher than it was when God split the sea. It says when he split the sea, split all the waters in the world by Yabaku Amayim. So that all the waters in the world split. Gila Naliota was even higher by Yabaku. In the days of Achashverosh, the Jewish people were the ultimate low. In addition to the fact that there was the concealment in exile, this is already the first temple had been destroyed. The second temple had not been built yet. Like in every single exile the Jewish people were in is something like the exile the Jews were in Egypt. Just like in the exile of Egypt, it is written that they were not able to listen to Moshe, mikotza ruach v'avada kasha. When the Jewish people were working in Egypt, they were building these pyramids and all sorts of bizarre things that the Egyptians wanted them. That we're talking about millions and millions of Jews, and they were all slaves, and their parents had been slaves, and their grandparents had been slaves, and their great-grandparents. There were 4 generations of slaves. Jewish people had slave mentality and slave identity and slave, the tradition. So it is in also every exile that there are many, many tests and difficulties to be Jewish, to act Jewish, to do the Torah, to do the commandments. Behold, as in the time of the Decree of Haman, there was even more difficult than any of the other times, even more than it was in Egypt. First of all, it was 1,000 years after the giving of the Torah. So the people forgot about that revelation. And here they'd been, the first temple was destroyed, and the Jewish people were at an all-time low. In many ways, we've talked about this before, the destruction of the first temple and the second temple was worse than the Holocaust. Not to minimize the Holocaust in any way, God forbid. But the fact is the Holocaust didn't affect all the Jews. It affected like 1/3 of the Jews in the world were killed. And let's say their relatives, even if it affected 2/3 of the Jews, right, in the world, and 1/3 of the Jews were totally non-affected. When the first temple was destroyed, all the Jews were affected. All of the Jews. All the Jews were driven from their homes. All the Jews saw the holy temple be destroyed. The Jews thought, and justifiably so, that God had abandoned them. And they had such a high thing, and they wrecked the whole thing. God had abandoned them. So the Jewish people were at all-time low. And nevertheless, in the time of the giving of the Torah, when that was the ultimate high, Shayu, Yisrael, B'tachlis, the Eloi, the Jewish people were the ultimate high, spiritually and identity and etc. How you saw it was Rak Hatchala, that was only the beginning. They began to accept the Torah in the time of the exile, the decree of Haman, when the Jewish people were very low. It doesn't say at the time of Haman, when the Jews were the ultimate low, then that was when they accepted what it says in Mount Time. How could this possibly? True that it says this, that they accepted it was when there was the miracle of Mordechai. So it says then the Jews accepted it. But the miracle that happened with Mordechai was nowhere near as great as the miracle of going out of Egypt and receiving the Torah. When they received the Torah, they saw God. And after the miracle of Purim, they didn't see God. They were saved. It was a big, amazing saving. It's true. It's explained, but nevertheless, how could it be when they saw God at Mount Sinai that was only the beginning? And when did they actually accept it in this miracle of Purim, which the miracle of Purim was not a revealed miracle at all? That's what it says in the whole Megillah, God's name does not appear. It's the only book in Judaism that God's name does not appear in. Ubezmana Gazer, in the time of the decree, was Kiyum Torah mitzvahs, the Jewish people, what they did when they had in the time of the decree of Haman, and also all the exile, the Torah and the mitzvahs that they did was self-sacrifice. That's the answer. The answer is not what we receive, but what we give. On Mount Sinai, we received this big revelation, but what did we give from ourselves? The Nosaf Lazeh, in addition to that their self-sacrifice was in the time of Haman, not to deny God, Chas v'shalom, like it's explained in Torah, or that if the Jewish people would have just said, we're not Jews, if they would have denied their Judaism, there wouldn't have been done anything to them. Because the decree was only on to kill Jews. And if the person would just say, I'm sorry, I'm not a Jew, got the wrong address, take down the mezuzah, change the door, the name on your doorstep on the front, instead of saying, the Kohens or the Goldbergs or something like that, changes that my name is Zork, or right, take the mezuzah down. My name is Hitler. Change your name, no problem. It's worthwhile not to get killed. Now for Pekin, nevertheless, lo aladatam, they didn't even think, no one even thought to change their name. The Jewish people had in the time of Purim self-sacrifice. Gam al kiyum Torah mitzvahs, also not on just on their identity, but also they refused to stop doing Torah and the commandments. Right, just a couple weeks earlier, all the Jewish people were at the meal of Achashverosh. A lot of them were eating not kosher food and drinking not kosher wine. And here we have the 1 full year this decree hung over their heads. Haman threw the lots and decided to kill the Jews 12 months from then. He threw the lots in the first month, and it came out for the 12 months. So 12 months it was hanging over the head of the Jews. And not only that, all of that time there was not one Jew that even thought to say he was not Jewish. Ache, kilos, and even to the degree that they were not just unwilling to hide their Judaism. They refused to hide. They advertised it. It says that Mordechai gathered together tens of thousands of children, and to learn Torah with self-sacrifice. His aros mesiras nefesh, the self-sacrifice was by means of Mordechai. Mordechai did it. He was the Moses of every generation. Just like the Jews would have never left Egypt if there was no Moses, they wouldn't have stayed out of Egypt. They wanted to come back to Egypt after they left. If it wasn't for Moses, they wouldn't have received the Torah. If it wasn't for Moses, they wouldn't have gone into the land of Israel if it wasn't for Moses. Moses forces the Jewish people to act, think, speak, feel Jewish. Moses of the generation, and that's what it means that the Jews, they accepted what they began to do. And Matan Torah, to giving the Torah, this was only the beginning. And at the time of the decree of Haman, that's when they actually accepted it. Because the Jewish people had what we call self-sacrifice, bapoil, actually, on Torah of the commandments. Nitalu, they rose up to a higher level than they were at the time of the giving of the Torah. And therefore, as Davka, then there was the giving when the Jewish people at Mount Sinai, that's when they began to receive the Torah. But when did they actually complete receiving the Torah was 1,000 years later, the holiday of Purim. We have to understand something, that Judaism is based on this man called Abraham. And Abraham, at least in the simple Torah narrative, the biblical narrative, he didn't do any miracles. He didn't really do very much at all, right? Didn't really do much. He fought some battles. It's very veiled in the Torah exactly what type of battle that he fought over there, and he conquered the kings, the 4 kings, but it's very not clear what exactly this battle was and what he did. But except for that, he didn't do any miracles. He didn't do any. This is the whole thing of Abraham was total self-sacrifice. He was willing to do anything that God said, God told him to do. And that's the essence of Judaism, to risk his life. At first glance, Yesh Lomar, we can say that this explanation can teach them more that we said before, that the Jews are crushed. They're crushed for the illuminator, that by means of this being crushed, a person reaches to the illuminator, the source of light in the world. This is an explanation. What says that the time of the decree of Haman, when the Jews are forced, then they come to self-sacrifice in a way that's tremendously higher, because this idea of self-sacrifice, this comes from the essence of the soul, which is above any revelation. This reaches what's called the Mimor, the source of light, that from it comes the light. And by means that the Jewish people were in a situation where they were katit, where they were all crushed. They were crushed and they were broken and crushed. Nitgala, there was revealed the essence of the Jewish soul. That's the Me'or. What crushes them is when they are in exile. Oval, but Hemshech, Seder, and Yanim. It's like there's a lot of stories. There's a Professor Bronifer. There's other stories where suddenly a Jew wakes up to his Jewish identity by anti-Semitism. Right? He wants to get along with everybody else. He just wants to be a normal person. All of a sudden, somebody calls him, "You dirty Jew." He marries. There's stories. I know per people that they married a non-Jew, and that something happened, and the wife and his non-Jewish wife tells him, "You dirty kike," or something like this. She calls him a name. All of a sudden, it comes out, what in the world is going to happen? because from being crushed from negative things, all of a sudden comes revealed the Jewish identity. In the Mimor Pirish, the Mimor of the previous Rebbe says Katit Lamaor, crushed up. It comes after this idea of being crushed. That comes from Moses. That's what he said. Moses is the one that does it. Moses was the one who inspired the Jews in Purim, inspired the Jews to have this self-sacrifice. So it implies that the whole idea of being crushed, this is relevant to the fact that Moses provides the faith of the Jewish people. He feeds the faith of the Jewish people, makes it inside. So what happens over here? Moses, he is the one that he encourages the Jewish people to be Jewish, to feel Jewish. I mean, it's always a big, I've never seen it written anywhere. Why exactly? What exactly is the cause, the real true cause of anti-Semitism? Here we see that Hitler hated all the Jews, and the German people accepted it 100%, right? So why? Why did he hate the Jews? What happened? He had all these reasons. He said the Jewish people are undermining the economy, they're undermining the politics, they're undermining they're thieves, they're liars, they have no values. And these were all things that all the Germans themselves did. They had no values. They were murderers. They were debauched, disgusting people. They did the worst possible things you could possibly imagine. All these things, the Jews didn't have this. Okay, but why did they hate the Jews? Why? The Jews looked like the Germans and they acted like Germans and they were accepted in German flag. They didn't have a different color skin or different accent or different nationality or anything like that. Jews, how did you know? No, guy was a Jew. His mother was a Jew. His great-grandmother Jew. His great-grandfather was a Jew. He was a quarter Jew, an eighth Jew. What's this thing with the Jews? Why? So even the Jews didn't know why. The Jews didn't know why. But all of a sudden, from nowhere, this person who claimed to be, the ultimate in culture and in intelligence and the superior race and this, all of a sudden they killed and they raped and they murdered the Jews. They tortured, worst possible things, and it was okay by them. That was part of their culture and part of what happened. Why? So it says the Rebbe, this was because they were the opposite of Jewish identity. What's Jewish identity? Making light in the world. They're God's people. They're making light in the world. They're making meaning in the world. They're putting blessing in the world. And the Germans did not want blessing or meaning or nothing. You said they were experts, geniuses at killing and murdering and destroying and bombing. And great. They were fantastic. And justifying it, they were even better. So what happens over here? All of a sudden, it brings out this Jewish identity. That who is the one that brings out the Jewish identity? We see Hitler brought it out, but another place it says, "What are you talking about? God forbid, it was not Hitler. It was Moses that brought it out. Moses, he's the one that brought out this Jewish identity." Okay, what does this mean? Let's just do 5 more minutes. Okay, I'm sorry we started late. Yesh Laboyer, we can explain according to what it says that the Jewish people, they believe in God. It says that Moses, he just nourishes and fortifies this faith that every Jew has in God. The fact that every single Jew believes in God with a simple faith, and every Jew believes in God in a way you don't have to have any proofs. Why is it? For 2 reasons. Number one, it says Lemazleu Chazi. Says that their mazel sees. What does a mazel see? It says this is a mazel is a level of the soul, that all godliness, mazel means to drip, nozel. The neshama, that the soul above, it sees God. Only a small fraction of our soul is in our consciousness. We're only conscious, our identity is determined by our consciousness. A person that has no consciousness, he's got no identity, right? No identity. A person that has no consciousness or no intelligence, he's not aware. So what he's aware of, that's what he is. But the fact of the matter is there's all these things, subconscious and super consciousness, says the Rebbe, that the essence, consciousness, the essence, identity of a Jew is God. And the essence of the Jewish soul sees God. Ria, seeing, which is above understanding. And this causes the soul, that little percentage of the soul that's in the body, that's in our day-to-day life, that we're aware of, that we're conscious of, this causes us to believe in God. So we see there's people that are anti-religious, that are this, and they'll do a commandment. They won't eat it Yom Kippur. They won't eat on Yom Kippur. They'll put on tefillin once in a while. Why? Because the essence of their soul feels. There's another explanation that's called Mazleu Chazi. Or an explanation, the Shorsh Amunah, the source of the fact that every Jew believes in God deep down. This is the essence of the soul. This is even above the thing of that there's Mazel, sees God. That this Etzem and Neshama, that the essence of the soul is attached to God. This is an essential attachment. She'eino talui b'siva, doesn't have to have any reason, not even seeing God. So there's one aspect of the soul, the top of the soul that sees God, and then there's the essence of the soul, which is even higher, that it's certain of God. Even if you have all the proofs in the world that God does not exist, the essence of the soul believes in God. Knows for certain that God exists. We can say that the difference between these two aspects of why every Jew believes in God, whether his soul sees or the essence of the soul knows, the difference is the amun of an neshama, that this part of the soul that believes in God, because it's the essence of the soul sees God. This is what's called makif. This is a surrounding level. A surrounding level of godliness. What is it in surrounding? He refuses to deny his Judaism. The kaven, since the neshama is above, it's lamayla mislavshutz, it's above being clothed in the body. It's not really part of his personality, but nevertheless it surrounds. He won't deny his Judaism, but it could be he'll do all the other sins in the world. He'll be. I don't know if I said this before, but I remember I read, I don't remember, they had an interview with Trotsky, Leon Trotsky. Leon Trotsky was an arch atheist. He was the head of the Red Army, a murderer, he was a genius, but he was totally against religion, against everything. And they interviewed him, and he said, I guess you have to say that I'm an atheist, but I guess you have to say that I'm an atheist Jew. And he could not deny his Judaism. That's this level of makif, the surrounding level. He's aware that he's a Jew. Somehow or other deep down, he sees it doesn't really have any implication on his day-to-day life. In order that this faith should be in an inner way, that it should affect his day-to-day life and his day-to-day personality. This only comes from the essence of the soul. The essence of the soul, when that is revealed, a person, not just that he sees God, but he's certain about God. The etzem and neshama, the essence of the soul, this is the essence of the entire soul, the part of the soul that's in the body. That's the essence, identity of a Jew. That's what the Nazis hated. The certainty that God exists, because the soul, it discovers God. It didn't just invent it. This is not the spiritual part, some sort of you're part of a person's psyche, that he has a need for spirituality, and that this part of the soul satisfies that need, right? But really, there's no such thing. It just happens to be. It's not so. God really does exist. The essence of the Jewish soul, and only by the Jews, the essence of the Jews is certain that God exists. But it's concealed. It's not activated, this part of our soul. When it is activated, then a Jew is willing to give his life. Then this emun of the soul, then when this part of the soul, the essence of the soul, is revealed, then this is much higher than the part of the soul that sees God. This is the essence of the Jewish soul, which is certain about God. Then that affects all of the aspects of the soul that are enclosed in the body. That's called panemius. I think we just do. Let's do this. According to this, now we can explain the connection. What we said in the Mimor, that this whole idea that the Jewish people will be crushed and that reaches the muck, or the source of the light. This comes in the previous Rebbe's Mimor, this previous essay that he wrote. It was a speech that he gave. This comes as a result of Moses. He says, Moses that Moses strengthens and nourishes the faith of the Jewish people, that it should be in an inner way, that it should read, namely that it should remember, it should wake up the essence of the soul, which is above this aspect of the soul that sees the eye of the soul. This is the Ma'or, this is the source of light, which is above the light of the soul. The light of this Jewish soul is that he sees God. He sees God. The essence of the Jewish soul is not that he sees God, is that he's certain, without any doubt, he knows that God exists. That's what's called the Ma'or, the source. The essence of the Jewish soul is connected to the essence of God. That's what it says. And this is what's revealed by Moses. That what it says, to be crushed up for this level of the Ma'or, the source of light. It explains in the previous Rebbe's essay that in order that a Jew can reach this level of the Ma'or, the source of light, it's only by being crushed. And this being crushed in the time of exile, this comes because Moses of every generation reveals the essence of the Jewish soul, namely through self-sacrifice. And this is only in the time of exile, which we're going to explain how this works out. So what's the Rebbe talking about over here? The Jews are totally different from everybody else. Totally different. The whole essence of the world depends on the Jews revealing the fact that there's a creator, and the creator is creating everything for a purpose. And the Jews reveal this, but it requires self-sacrifice of the Jews. Because why? Because the creator is also creating our soul. And this purpose of the soul, that's what keeps the soul alive. Purpose. And what is the purpose? To be totally given over to the creator. Believe it or not. That was like Abraham. Totally devoted to the creator. When a person is totally, we see by Abraham, what did he have? He was a normal person. And then he was tremendously rich. He had a family, he had a wife, he had children. Right? He took several wives. Abraham, he traveled around. I mean, Abraham was a super dynamic person. A person when he's given over totally to the creator is very, very alive and dynamic. It says King David didn't even sleep. He was given over, he was so devoted to God. He was always working and doing and moving, because the whole purpose of being given over to God is to make the physical world a good place. But you have to be connected to the essence. And this connected to the essence means that you have to, I have to give over the essence of my soul to the source of the essence of my soul. It comes from God. So this means the source of my humanness is awakened only when it reveals that it's connected to the essence of God. So God is not just some, another player in this whole thing called reality, or in the Bible, or whatever, biblical story, not just a religious character. That God is really creating us, and he's creating us for this purpose. And the purpose is only demonstrated by the Jewish people, to do what it says in the Torah. And that's only revealing what true man is. But it requires the Jewish people to have self-sacrifice, and the Jewish people won't do it unless there are apparently two ingredients. One of them is there has to be a time of exile when the Jews are crushed, and another is that there has to be a true Jewish leader that awakens them, a Moses. So this is very, very important, very essential to the whole purpose of the world. That's the idea of the Moshiach. That's why Moshiach is connected with oil. And remember, we just finished learning about the essence of Hasidut is to reveal this oil. The oil which will illuminate the whole entire world, give purpose to all mankind. So that's what we're working at. And of course, these are the words of Moshiach. The Lubavitcher Rebbe is the Moshiach, and these are his words, and he is activating this crushing ability inside of each one of us. As we'll talk about more, God willing, next week. I'm very, very sorry that I overslept. but I really did oversleep. And if you wouldn't have, I wouldn't have suddenly woken up and thought, "Oy, wow, what do I do?" So here we are. Good. So we got the same amount in, and God willing, we'll wake up spiritually also from our slumber.
Amen. Thank you very much.
Have a good week.
Very special. Thank you for the share. Looking forward.
Thanks. Shalom Abracha. Next week we'll set it for again. We'll learn again. Shalom.
All the best. Shalom, shalom.